Hello everyone, back to you in today's second video. We've already done the 5-day forecast. You can find that here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a little bit and it's above the pollen count. It's also a written version. You get that from the buttons at the top of the page. It's going to be an interesting 5 days. Starting off hot, there's going to be thunderstorms tomorrow. And then it's going to gradually start to cool down a little bit over the weekend, but still pleasantly warm. There's still a lot of dry weather over the weekend. So, fairly decent 5 days coming up. This video is going to extend out beyond the 5-day forecast period. We're going to have a look at when it's week to 10 days. And we'll also have a look at Beijing climate change for the next 40 days, and that takes us into August as well. Just to say, this evening we'll be updating Stormwatch, see what this thundery potential is that we've got coming up tonight and tomorrow. So if you're interested in thunderstorms, if you're a fan of convection, come back to Stormwatch tonight. So just start off with the latest observations from xcweather.co.uk, which you can find a link to that website on the links page. So very warm, if not locally hot afternoon coming up. At the moment, highest temperatures are down in the south. London Heathrow is at 26 degrees. If we try somewhere else, it's at Northolt is at 27 degrees into the 80s Fahrenheit. High Wycombe at 25 degrees. Farnborough at 26 degrees. London Gatwick at 25 degrees. So down that southeastern southern corner of the country, temperatures are into the mid to upper 20 Celsius. I think they'll continue to rise a little bit over the next hour or two. Somewhere might be able to scrape 29 degrees this afternoon. That's going to around 84 Fahrenheit. A lot cooler in the northeast, though. I've had some stubborn cloud and grey skies. So Bournemouth there, just on the east coast, just at 14 degrees. Catterhull at 15 degrees. Loftus, they're struggling at 12 degrees. Very, very cool down the east coast, actually. Try somewhere else. Scarborough is just at 4 degrees. Bridlington at 15 degrees. So in this northeastern corner, it's not great. In Batherby at 13 degrees. And Aberdeen at 15 degrees. So it's not great down the northeastern coast. It's misty and gloomy there, and with wind coming off the North Sea, a lot cooler. But the heat is definitely on down in the south, and tomorrow will be a little bit hotter actually than today for the south. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So the red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average. You see that today it is very warm, but actually tomorrow it's going to be a little bit hotter down in the south. That'll be our peaking temperatures, and I think we could well get 30 degrees tomorrow, 86 Fahrenheit, somewhere like central London. After that, the temperatures are very gradually easing down through the second half of the week and into the weekend. Only going close to average though, so we're not going to be talking about a cold spell by any means, just dropping by a few degrees, but still really quite warm even at the weekend. Into next week, the trend is to continue to cool things, going a little bit cooler than average with the upper air temperatures. Bear in mind that actually if the sun comes out on the surface, because it's July, it'll still be warm, even with upper air temperatures going cooler than average. And then after that, into the extended part of GFS ensembles, which takes into the second half of July, really. A lot of scatter, but you wouldn't say it's necessarily going to be turning all that warm, really staying around the 30-year temperature average into the second half of the month. However, today's operational run of the GFS did actually go quite hot. That's this green run just here, but that's an outlier. It's not supported by other members at this stage. I would assume it's going to be a sort of summer where we will continue to get hotter spells, though. That showed up very clearly in the summer forecast. So whilst there's nothing particularly standing out at this stage, a hot spell the second half of July, I certainly won't be ruling out the chance that we'll see the temperatures lifting up again in the second half of the month. In terms of precipitation, those rainfall spikes just there are associated with tomorrow's risk of thunderstorms, with a peak of temperatures, of course. Then a lot of dry weather over the weekend. It'll be a really pleasant weekend, actually. And then into next week, gradually turning more unsettled, more showery. Again, you wouldn't necessarily say it's a very wet period at all, but certainly turning a little bit more unsettled and showery through the course of next week as those temperatures cool down. Temperature anomalies are looking like this. For Scotland, we're coming out a little bit cooler than average. For England and Wales, we're coming out a bit warmer than average from the 5th through to the 13th of July. Precipitation shows that the south and southeast is coming out a little bit wetter than average in the weekend. Interestingly, further north and west, it's a little bit drier than average. I would have thought those the rainfall down there, the above average anomalies in the southeast, are probably a result of tomorrow's thunderstorms. In America, the east-west split continues, so the western states, with their temperature anomalies, remain very significantly hotter than average in all of these western states. Looks very hot indeed. Over in the eastern part of the states, however, it's a lot cooler. They've had a relatively cool summer in eastern parts of America so far. For precipitation, overall a lot of dry weather, particularly so in these western states. In the east, where it's cooler, it's also a little bit wetter, but you wouldn't necessarily say it's a very wet scenario by any means. Just a little bit wetter in those eastern states, but very dry out in the west, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. Here's how the GFS is looking for Saturday then, and we've still got a ridge across the country for Saturday. We're within slightly cooler and fresher air, so it'll be more comfortable, but still a lot of dry weather and still pleasantly dry and warm. That continues for England and Wales on Sunday, although we might increase the risk of showers a bit more in the south on Sunday. In the north, it is turning a little bit more unsettled then. Some cloud and rain heading in off the Atlantic. Into the early part of next week, probably dropping a trough southwards on Monday. That could bring some showery conditions. And then this takes into Tuesday, where you see it is turning more generally unsettled then. Low pressure is beginning to develop across the country. Pressure is seeping away, if you like. Not a dramatic switch, but that certainly looks more showery there by Tuesday. And still quite showery into Wednesday as well, and pulling down some cooler air from the north and the northwest as well. Second half of next week takes that low pressure off in towards Denmark, and we start to build a ridge back in from the Atlantic again. So that takes into quite a warm end to next week. This is running up to day 10 now. Takes us to Friday the 14th of July, where we've got high pressure down in the south, low pressure is in the north, and it's probably quite warm that for southern parts of the country. This is actually taking us to day 10, which is Saturday the 15th of July, when we see that we've still got high pressure in the south, so quite warm there, a little bit cooler and more showery up in the north. If I just extend you beyond that, you'll see the reason the GFS became hot in its extended range is that this area of high pressure, the ridge, again built in through the country into the second half of July. It eventually sets up a ridge to our east, and that starts to pull up much hotter air from off the continent. There's the upper air temperature showing heat beginning to push back northwards again. That solution wasn't supported within the GFS ensemble, so it's a remote possibility at this stage. But it is that kind of summer where we can expect to see the Azores high throwing its ridge over us, and then the ridge goes to the east and pulls up the heat from the south. The thing with this summer is that the heat should never really be sustained, so it turns hot for a day or two and then breaks down. And this, I think there's going to be a repeating pattern probably for the rest of the summer, to be honest. So it showed up quite clearly within the summer forecast. I wouldn't be surprised, as I say, if we did get some hotter conditions again at some point in the second half of July. Free to be east MWF, and again for Saturday we find we're bringing down cooler air from the northwest, but it is still pleasantly warm, especially so in the south. Through to Sunday and into Monday, it's gradually turning cooler and more unsettled from the north and from the west as well, so that by Tuesday we've actually got an area of low pressure over the country that will be bringing showers or longer spells of rain there by Tuesday. That low pressure gets out of the way on Wednesday, leaves us with a showery northwesterly flow, and then into Thursday and Friday we've got the ridge down to the south, bringing quite a bit of warm and dry weather to England and Wales, always a little bit cooler and more showery to Scotland and Northern Ireland. We finish up on day 10 looking like that. Looks like we're trying to build the ridge in over France to me, but if we could roll on another 24 hours, I suspect we would probably find this area of low pressure up here starting to stall. We'd probably start to build pressure around there and begin to bring up warmer air from the south. That's day 10, Saturday 15th of July. Finally, we'll just have a look at the charts from Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period takes us from the 6th through to the 15th of July, and it shows quite a lot of ridging actually, above average heights around the UK and ridging in. The low pressure with those blue colours there up to the north, and the jet streams up to the north as well. So we expect quite a lot of dry and warm weather in the coming 10 days. The next 10 days is going from the 16th to the 25th of July. Again, lots of ridging there through the Atlantic and into the UK. The low pressure is up to the north. And again, the jet stream's probably up to the north as well. So once more, you expect a fair amount of dry and pretty warm weather there, excuse me, at times going into the second half of July. The next 10-day period is taking us from the 26th of July through to the 4th of August. And a little bit of a change is taking place now. The above average heights are going more towards the north-northwest. We're starting to get below average heights setting up to our south-southeast. This will be bringing in, it's quite an unusual scenario, it will be bringing in an easterly flow, which could be very warm actually. That could be bringing in some very warm air from the east. But what you have to watch out for is a risk of probably thunderstorms or thundery rain coming up from the south. And the most unsettled conditions for wettest weather would actually be in the south and the east with that, with the driest weather in the north and the west. That'll be quite an interesting end to July and start to August. And then the final 10-day period, this is days 31 to 40, so it's a very long way off. This is the 5th through to the 14th of August, shows then that we're actually setting up an area of below average heights over the top of the country. So that would be unsettled, and we'd probably be bringing the wind around from the northwesterly direction with that, so a lot cooler as well. That doesn't look very good actually as we're going into the middle of August, but it's a very, very long way off, and I wouldn't be at all concerned about it. Coming back to the more reliable time frame, the next week to 10 days. So I think we're going to have a lot of pleasant weather to enjoy into the weekend. Going to be very warm. Temperatures will be lower than they will be today and tomorrow, and probably in the south on Friday, but still pleasantly warm for the weekend. Next week it's turning more unsettled. We're not talking about a washout here, we're just talking about more unsettled weather and cooler as well. By the second half of next week, possibly beginning to bring warm conditions back to the south. Later on today, we'll have a look at Storm Watch. I'll be with you around 7 o'clock tonight. So if you're interested in thunderstorms, lightning, convection, really going to be some storms in the next 24 hours. So come back to Storm Watch for that. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.